Alright, what's going on everyone, and welcome to the series in which I introduce you to all of the most powerful competitive decks in the modern format. The goal here is not to give an exact deck list as those change constantly, but rather to give a brief overview of how the deck works so you can be prepared if you're new to the format. Today we're going to be looking at Izzet Prowess, an archetype that you may be familiar with if you don't play Modern, because it's playable in basically every 60 card format in existence, right? It's in Standard, it's in Pioneer, I don't know if it's in Legacy, but it's probably in Legacy. The key creatures in this deck include Monastery, Swiftspear, Slickshot, Show Off, and Soulscar Mage, though do note that the Mage is losing a lot of popularity. Currently, it's in about 30% of published decks, so not as common right now. But the Swiftspear is a 1-mana 1/2 with haste and prowess, and the Show Off is a 2-mana 1/2 flying that gets +2/+0 when you cast a non-creature. So both of these just get a bunch of power really quick when you play non-creatures. Prowess, of course, meaning the Swiftspear gets +1/+1. And also note that the Show Off, if you're worried about removal, you can plot it on turn 2, then cast it for 0 mana on turn 3. You lose out on 1 damage because it could have attacked on turn 2, but if you want to wait, see if your opponent taps out, if they're holding up mana, that's a thing you can do. So the idea with this, right, is just to play these in a bunch of cheap spells to massively pump up your board. We'll go over the specifics, but let's just say you have 1 Swiftspear and 1 Show Off in play, and then you play Lightning Bolt. You could deal 3 damage to the opponent's face, then you could attack for 5, because the Swiftspear would be a 2/3, and the Show Off would be a 3/2. That's with 1 mana on turn 3. So let's say you only draw 2 mana. 2 Lightning Bolts would be 6 damage face, plus 8 damage attacking for 14 damage. So you can see how fast it adds up, right? It gets kind of crazy. So you want to chain a bunch of spells, and the way this deck does it is it plays things that can be cast for free, like Mutagenic Growth and Lava Dart. Now, you don't have to pay mana for growth. It's green, you're never paying green for it. There's no green sources in the mana base typically. It's pay 2 life for the Phyrexian mana symbol, which is +2/+2 plus trigger prowess. And Lava Dart is 1 mana for 1 damage. Terrible, but it has flashback, sacrifice a mountain. This means you can pay a red, cast it, trigger prowess, then sacrifice that same mountain that you tapped to cast it a second time. So if you just had, like, again, a couple Show Offs in play, you could tap a land, deal a damage, sacrifice the land, deal a damage, and then the 2 Show Offs are 5/2s attacking for 10. That's 12 damage for 1 mana basically. And that's the sort of stuff this deck does. Like, again, let's say you have 1 each of these 2 creatures in play, you could pay 2 life for Mutagenic Growth. That turns the Swiftspear into a 2/3 and the Show Off into a 5/4, assuming you targeted the Show Off. Then you could cast Lightning Bolt for 3 damage to face or kill a blocker, turning the Swiftspear into a 3/4 and the Show Off into a 7/4. Then you could cast a Lava Dart for 1 damage. Swiftspear goes to a 4/5, Show Off goes to a 9/4. Then you could sacrifice a mountain for the flashback. Swiftspear becomes a 5/6, Show Off becomes an 11/4. That's 17 damage in combat plus all the burn damage. Obviously, you know, this is all hypothetical, but this is the type of stuff the deck does. It puts a couple prowess creatures in play, then it just vomits out a bunch of spells, really cheap spells, freeze spells, and goes crazy and just like goes for your face super fast. It can present lethal out of nowhere as early as turn 3. Naturally, this is a bit of a glass cannon. If the opponent has removal, good luck. And so it has alternative ways of winning with Quarry Steelcutter and Dragon's Rage Channeler. The Cutter gives equipped creature +1/+1, trample, and haste. That's fine, especially on the Show Off. Giving that trample is very relevant. However, more importantly, it has Flurry. Whenever you cast a second spell per turn, it makes a monk with prowess. These are basically Monastery Swiftspears. 1 less toughness, but you get to just generate Swiftspears. It allows you to go super wide with a bunch of things that get prowess, and they can get really big on the turn when you decide to chain all your spells, right? Not to mention whichever one is equipped with the Quarry Steelcutter will have trample. And note, every time you make a new token, you can move the cutter to the token, which will then give it haste and trample. So what this deck has is its sort of glass cannon, all in, just kill you on turn 3 potentially. But if you can answer that, it can fall back on a grindy, value-based prowess build where it can just generate an army and constantly pump them with cheap spells. The Dragon's Rage Channeler is a 1-mana 1/1, and it's gonna surveil every time time you cast a non-creature. That is very important for this type of deck because it's very draw dependent, right? If this deck floods out, I mean, you're done. So with the Channeler, you get to dig. You get to see lands on top, get them out of there, right? Dig through your deck, make sure you're hitting gas. And also, Delirium, it becomes a 3/3 flyer. Delirium, of course, meaning you have 4 different card types in your graveyard. Now we have creatures, we have instants, we have sorceries, but we also have Mishra's Bauble. This is a 0 mana artifact that will sacrifice to draw a card the following turn. You play it on your turn, you sacrifice it, you get to look at your top card or your opponent's top card, you get to pick, and then on your opponent's turn, you draw a card. So it replaces itself with a new card for 0 mana. Also note, playing that is going to trigger Prowess because Prowess triggers on non-creatures. It's not instants and sorceries, guys, it's non-creatures. So this will trigger these things for 0 mana. So it's like Mutagenic Growth or the flashback on Lava Dart. And then it's an artifact in the graveyard that's going to give you Delirium for Dragon's Rage Channeler, which will make it a 3/3 flyer for 1 mana. And then the deck plays a lot of filtering. There's a bunch, but you know, Preordain, Expressive Iteration, stuff like this. Preordain is scry 2, draw a card, replaces itself. We love to just pay 1 mana, get another card so we can keep chaining spells. And Expressive Iteration is 2 mana. Look at the top 3. 1 goes to hand, 1 goes bottom of library, and the third gets exiled and you can cast it until end of turn. Most of the deck costs 2 or less. So if you're casting this with 4 mana, you're guaranteed to be able to play whatever you hit. And also that's multiple triggers of Prowess, right? If you Preordain, hit another spell, great. You play it, that's another Prowess trigger. If you Expressive Iteration, hit another spell, you're gonna hit 2, right? 1 goes to hand, 1 goes to exile. So you exile the cheaper one, cast it, or exile whatever you want to cast this turn, and you still have another one in hand. So card advantage, card replacement, cycling, you know, draw, cast spells, cast spells, cast spells, make your stuff big. The deck is also playing Violent Urge at the moment, which is pretty fun. It gives +1/+0 and first strike, which isn't that exciting, but if you have Delirium, which as we've seen we can do, it gives double strike instead. Naturally, that's very dangerous with this deck, as we've seen with Slickshot Show Off. If you can give that thing +1/+0 and double strike, I mean, if you just had Show Off and played Violent Urge with Delirium, it's going to go to a 4/2 double striker. That's 8 damage for 1 mana, and that's assuming you have no other spells to cast and no other creatures in play. So yep, that's what it can do. And yeah, there's other cards you'll see sometimes. You know, you see Sprite Dragon and Stormwing Entity. These are more casual, but you'll see them from time to time. They're just extra payoffs for playing spells. Murktide Regent as well. This has not been very popular recently, which is kind of crazy. You do see it in the sideboard though from time to time. There's a wide variety of less popular spells as well. There's burn spells like Unholy Heat, Burst Lightning, Gut Shot. All of these are sometimes played. Gut Shot being free, Unholy Heat being an exile-based removal, pretty important sometimes. You also see more filtering, all kinds of stuff. Manamorphose, Opt, Serum Visions. The last one's pretty rare, but you'll see it sometimes because it's a sorcery, so that can be helpful with Delirium. But yeah, just filtering, card draw, all this stuff. You'll see a lot of it. And that's basically it. It's kind of crazy how these Prowess creatures have been so popular in so many formats. You know, Mono Red used to be creature-based aggro or burn, but nowadays it's Izzet, it's Prowess. It's been like this for a while now. And what makes the modern build unique is having access to Mishra's Bauble. Standard and Pioneer don't have that. So because it has Mishra's Bauble, it opens the door for the Delirium payoffs, like Dragon's Rage Channeler and the Violent Urge. That's a fun, unique aspect of the modern build. But beyond that, it's the same Prowess creatures that are played in all of the formats, combined with card draw and burn to just dish out tons of damage ridiculously quick. It's a fragile game plan, but it can win the game out of nowhere, and it can always fall back on that Corey Steelcutter plan if the plan A doesn't come to fruition. And that's it. There is, of course, tons of variation from deck to deck, and there will likely continue to be developments as the metagame evolves and as new cards are released. So be sure to check the description below, guys. I will leave links to metagame tracking websites so you can see the most up-to-date deck lists at the time that you're watching this video. But in the meantime, I hope this was helpful. I hope it was interesting. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked, and I will see you in the next one.